Okay, awesome.
Yes.
So I went through and sent a list of links that are commonly used on your Intel laptop and only accessible through the Intel VPN network. So go through here as soon as you get on your Intel laptop, save these as bookmarks, and we'll go through each one of them today. And just kind of show you what they're used for and what resources are included for Arizona specifically. I've also attached a copy of my entitlements, and I'll show you what website we request these through. And I highlighted all the ones that you'll need for Arizona. So access to Easy Power to pull panel schedules, e-request access to submit SIPs and electrical e-requests. And then there's some in here for SCADA, some VPN access, which you guys should already have if you guys have an Intel laptop. So to start, so the way that I got access for you guys and permissions is through ags.intel.com. So this is the access governance system. The way that I select permissions for you guys to access these different Intel network sites is once you get logged into here, you want to make sure that your name's up here in the top right corner, and you'll either request access for yourself or you can request access for others. So I just went in here, hit request access for others, looked up you guys via your worldwide IDs. You can also do like last name, comma, first name, and that'll bring you guys up. But you'll select the user that you want to apply for access to, hit next, and then you're going to search for the access requests and entitlements that were highlighted and listed on this page. Like I said, I've done it for you guys already just to try and give you guys a head start. But if we have more people coming in, you guys can assist them with this. If we have, let's say, a foreman or a superintendent that wants to be able to submit their own SIPs and e-requests, you can go through and request that permission for them. Let's try and find this as an example. So this will give us the ability to enter SIPs for the Chandler site specifically. I already requested this for him, but let's say he didn't have that. We'd go to step 3, and that's just providing justification for why this access is needed. And I usually just have a quick blurb. I think I sent this off to you guys, but I'll make sure that you guys get this. You can just copy and paste it. So just electrical trade partner, QPS with Skanska or whoever the general foreman is, or the general contractor is. We'll list that, just notifying them that we need access to this particular entitlement so that we can support ongoing and future electrical installs. See if he has this one. Okay, so this is what step 3 will kind of look like. You hit this little comment button there, hit save, and it'll apply that same justification for all the entitlements you have listed below. If you need to adjust for each one, you can just click that line item and adjust it manually. You'll hit submit, and then that will begin the process of approval. So whoever owns this entitlement for Intel, they'll go through, take a look at our reasoning and who we are within the company and either say, yes, it's a go, or no, we don't believe that they need this permission or access to this function. So that's what I did for you guys yesterday. Now, once those are approved, the other place you're going to live most of the time is going to be your e-request inbox. So this is where we go up at the top under forms to submit all SIPs, all e-requests for electrical support. I'm not sure what forms you have right now, but the forms that you will need is this SIP and then this whiteboard form down here at the bottom. So let's take a look at the SIP form really quick. So essentially it's fill in the blank. I've also created which you guys have maybe seen floating around, a SIP submission form for the foreman to fill out. And it's just basically what campus we're on, QPS project number, building, floor, and grid. Our start and end date are super important for SIPs. If a SIP becomes past due, we no longer can perform work underneath the SIP number and we need to resubmit. So let's say the SIP expiration date, the end date, we put it in there at 12/20 and we didn't get the work done. We now need to resubmit a SIP that covers us through new dates. So it's always good to overestimate rather than underestimate. I mean, we can't really have like a SIP open for a year, but if we have it open for maybe a month or two, that's completely reasonable and has us covered. Down here is the expectation of the foreman to outline what work we're submitting a SIP on. And that has to include proper panel numbers, circuit numbers. Everything has to line up with the panel schedules and all of our supporting documents. SIP submissions are a whole training in itself, and I will schedule a training for us to go over that in greater detail. But essentially all of this information here gets plugged into the SIP submission form through the whiteboard request. So you'll add in your contacts. It'll be your foreman, your project manager. Also super important to adjust your start and end dates. It's going to default to today's date on both of them. So if we get a SIP approved and it only covers us for a day, we have to start the whole SIP approval process all over again. Process, depending on what we're trying to get approval for, it's either going to be under this FAST or 1274. Majority of the time, it's going to be this 1274. We can talk about that in detail during our SIP training. Site, you guys should only have access to Arizona. And then project, we can find that on the contract. We'll go over that in greater detail. And then once we select, let me do this. We select a site, that's when I'll let you select a building, what discipline it's for, contractor. I don't believe we're in there yet, so we'll select Skanska since we're performing work under their umbrella. Title, work description, all the stuff that comes from the SIP submission form. And then this specifically is talking about how we're identifying risks, how we're mitigating them, what are some of the processes that we put in place to avoid that. And then we upload all of our supporting documentation for those SIPs, which is ECP, a work plan, any panel schedules, any panel assessments. Again, we will talk about the requirements and what those look like at a later date during an actual SIP training, but this is what the form looks like. After we're done, we'll hit submit for approval. You can select multiple approvers. So let's say we need an approver for electrical, and we also need an approver for HUPW, so ultra purified water. We need a system owner for that. We can list as many approvers as we want or as we need. It's going to get the approval from each one by one down the chain of command. If one person rejects it, we have to go in, edit it, and then start the approval process one by one again. So just keep that in mind. If we have a bunch of approvers, sometimes it's better to break it out into two different SIPs versus just one with too many approvers and too many hands in the pot. So the other thing you're going to see here is your e-request inbox. So under forms, this whiteboard form is how we submit all of our e-requests to Arizona Electrical. in order to get circuit shutoffs, panel shutdowns, circuit startups. All of this goes through this tool right here and goes through their scheduling system. So let me pull up one that I actually have drafted for LOD1A. So you might recognize this from the calendar invites I send out. So as I'm filling out this form here, it's going to ask for project contacts. So I'm going to put our foreman in there, our project manager. I'm going to list our foreman as the primary contacts because that's who I want the electricians to contact if they need anything out in the field. Same thing on the SIP form, we're selecting the site and building. And then here we're just entering in all of our information. I will combine the SIP and eRequest training together. Just because I want to go into more detail about what documents are required, sequence of events, when an e-request gets entered, and what we're allowed to do, which kind of ties into the QA/QC process. So I know we have a QA/QC training next week, so we will tackle SIP and e-request after that, so you can kind of see how it all ties in together. But down here, you can select any discipline, so UPW, mechanical, LIWS, depending on what kind of support we need. Do we need a system owner there to give us the okay or to hang demo tags? In this case, we're just asking for electrical support. So I will add the utility work, click add, and then down here, it'll give me a space to put down exactly what kind of support we're requesting. I will attach all of my supporting documentation. And here, usually what will pop up, right now I already have it scheduled, but what will pop up is a little calendar showing open time slots available. Aldo with Skanska said, hey, let's go ahead and schedule this for 1/9. So I went ahead and scheduled this for 1/9, 7 a.m. shutdown of the panel. We'll go ahead and do all of our inspections and work and bring it back up at the end of the day. So this is my start up request. And I just selected the time slot at the end of the same day. When you go to step 3, it'll give you a summary of everything that you've entered. This is where I'll copy it. There'll be a button here that says submit for approval. And then I will send a copy of this with the email to myself so I can create calendar invites for the field and for the project managers so that they have it on their calendar and they're aware of the work that we are going to be performing at that time. So we've gone over the entitlements, the e-request system. Now let's look at the security portal. So a lot of the times we'll have new crew members or we'll be restructuring crews, and a lot of them don't have the badge access needed for the area. It's just requested as we go. But at securityportal.intel.com, this is where we'll request badge access. You can request badge access for yourself as well. So we'll go into request access. And there's a couple different ways we can do it. We can search via drop-down menu for a single card reader or a grouped card reader. Under Arizona, Phoenix, you will have Chandler and Ocotillo for the single card readers. Same thing under grouped. See if I can find an example. So like this one's assorted building access for all the ATTD FA labs versus up here. So building, floor, and then these are the card reader numbers. So when your guys are asking out in the field, like, hey, we need access to the LSS room at F22, that really doesn't give us enough information. So we can go in here and be like, I'm guessing it's this one, But what you need to ask them for is a picture or the card reader number that's posted at every card reader on site. So just be a little white label on there. They can say, hey, it's P61R482. And that narrows it down for us a lot better, so that we can make sure that we're accurately requesting the right card readers. So you can select as many as you want. You just keep searching. As long as you check it off, all of your different entitlements down here are going to show up. You'll hit request for other people. You can search them by their name or worldwide ID. And then you can change the access period. Sometimes it gives you 1 month, 6 months, 1 year. It will also let you know what training is required in order to gain access to that area. So sometimes they need chemical access training, Protocol 5 training, but all of that will be on the next step. So justification for access, it's just like when I put justification for access for your permissions. We need to justify to the area owner why we need access to that particular room. So usually I'll put in here, electrical trade partner requires access to support conduit install for X project, or you know, electrical contractor needs access to work on LSS system or site radio system within this room. That way we're providing a very specific justification of why we need in there. Otherwise they'll say, they'll reject it and say, hey, we don't see a good enough reason for you to need access to this, especially if it's a high security level area. So going back to the entitlements, I can also show you. So next to each entitlement, you can see who actually needs to approve our access request for that area. So let's say we put in an access request and it's been longer than 24 hours. We'll want to send an email to the approvers saying, hey, we requested access for these worldwide IDs. Could you take a look and approve? Or if, let's say we dropped the ball on something and we didn't plan well enough and they need access to it same day, we can send it to these approvers and say, hey, can you guys expedite approval on this and get us in there sooner? Another thing that you'll see is the training. So this little hat there, if you click on that, it will show you mandatory training to get in that room. So if there's any question, whether it's a chemical area or a gas storage space, we'll want to check and see if there's any training needed for the group, and to see when was the last time that they actually completed that training. Also, if you're looking for contact information, let's see, we're trying to find like the room owner on this. If we go home, so just click the home button. It'll bring us to circuit.intel.com. So this is basically just their homepage. Another way you can search for people is just up at the top. It's not the best search function, but if I could just look it up by worldwide ID. So you can find phone numbers. Let's say you need a call and say, hey, can you approve this access request? It depends on how desperate we are. Usually I'll just send an email, but if we get super desperate, we can at least call and say, hey, I see that you're the area owner on card reader XXX. Could you go ahead and expedite this? So this is another tool for you guys to use to look up actual Intel employees in case we need to expedite anything. Okay, another thing that we will be using is the Chandler and Ocotillo system owners list. Okay, well, I used to have access to this one. All right, you guys might need to do the same thing as when you get into the spreadsheet, you'll have to hit that button so that says request access. I don't know how mine dropped off, but this is the one for Ocotillo at least. So it lists out system owners by their building, system UPN, and system title. Now, this is a super important tool that we use to get SIP owner approval and to coordinate any downtime, startups, or work with the system owners on site. So, for example, on the HUPW AFD installs, we were working with David Hubler, who happens to be the OC10 HUPW. Get it on here. So he's listed as the UPW HUPW system owner for the F22 building. So we can go up here and say, I know based on the tag and code on the equipment or on the device that it's going to be on system code 244. So I can show you an example of that. And it's just going to take some time for you to get your eyes kind of used to what you're looking for. But for example, on this one, we're installing OCF2 AFD-244-1-100. This 244 is the UPN code on the system. So if we're ever questioning some equipment that needs to be brought down during a panel shutdown, and we need to figure out who owns that equipment, as long as there's an equipment tag on it, we can look at the UPW and the building that it's in, and that'll give us who we need to go to actually get approval to shut that down. And then we can work with them directly. It saves us time going through Skanska, asking them to collect system owners when this is essentially what they do anyways. So as long as they're looped into the coordination, we can kind of cut out the middleman and speed things up that way. Let's see what else. Some other items, passreset.intel.com. If you ever need to reset your VPN or your corporate account, you can go in here and do that from any Intel laptop or station. So that one's pretty self-explanatory. There's also our Intel.Saba Cloud. So this is where you can take all of your web-based training. You can also log out and have the guys log in to complete the training. So if there's like chemical access training that they need to do, it'll tell you on this right here. It'll give you the training course ID and the number. And you can just look up the course ID here, make sure the proper person's logged in and take that course. It'll give them credit for that course almost immediately. And once that's completed, we can go in there and request a card reader access that they might have otherwise been declined for now that they have that entitlement and training completed. Let's see what else. You don't need Let's Meet anymore. The way that they do requests for conference rooms now are done via calendar invite. So, for example, in order to reserve this conference room at CH6, so it's conference room 404-6, I'll have to look that up and just request them. So if you're looking for a conference room at CH6, you can do invite attendees, hit required, and then just search for CR, which is conference room dash CH6, and go and look for the actual conference room that you want to reserve. Now, it's kind of hard. You might need to like walk around and actually put eyes on the conference room number that you need. I don't think it actually, this -14-6-18, I think that might be the occupancy for that room. I just haven't been physically out there to check if that is the case, but I believe it's the occupancy number. So you'll just have to go out there, actually verify it in the office, send the calendar invite to that conference room. And as long as they accept, it means the conference room is open and free and we're now reserved for that space. Maybe we can kind of go over what some of the e-request emails look like, but I kind of want to do that on a separate training. Do that with the SIP and e-request training. Trying to see if I have any access to card readers in here I can reference. So you'll get an email like this if we've submitted for an access request. So I'll tell you exactly who you've submitted it for, what card reader it's for, how long they're approved, and then it'll reiterate your reason for access. So if somebody's waiting on this room, I will go ahead and just forward this email and just let them know access has been approved. So like if Hanson's waiting on his crew, you can just forward this off to him and say, hey, it's been approved. We're good to go. It looks like that's pretty much it. You guys won't really need access to estimating or CBOS, at least not right now. And that'll be a different training, probably more with Paul Franklin or Paul Sear if they end up going the estimating route in CBOS and then passing that off to the project managers themselves rather than just having an estimating department. So I know we went over a lot, and I know this is going to branch off into additional side trainings, but do you guys have any questions right now on anything I've gone over? I'm going to take that as a no. Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and set up trainings for the SIP submission. So the actual document